certified real.
Hey, I'm a little excited.
You heard it here first. Certified real. Airborne.
You are now listening to Real Talk Podcast.
This is certified.
What up, people? We back. It's the Real Talk Podcast. We live in the building. Got the fellas with me. Y'all say what up, people. Or to the people, I should say.
What up?
Yeah, they mad thrilled about this one. We got a new one out. Just came out on August, I believe it was 10th. But it's called Untold, Malice in the Palace. For those of y'all that don't know about the Malice in the Palace, there was a basketball game between two NBA teams where that went crazy. So we'll talk more about that, but this is directed by Floyd Russ and executive producer Jermaine O'Neal, also stars Jermaine O'Neal, Steven Jackson, and Meta World Peace, aka Ron Artest. Fellas, initial thoughts?
For me, fire. I think that's the first thing that came to mind was this is dope. It's probably top 3 documentaries in my book for me.
That you watched?
That I watched, obviously, yes.
It's not even that long either, so
Yeah,
It's like an hour and change.
That's interesting you said that.
That's all you needed. You didn't need more.
Do you watch a lot of documentaries?
I think I watch a good portion of documentaries. Like just like this The Thin Blue Line was a fire documentary. That's like top 2. And then James Baldwin, I'm Not Your Negro, is my top 3 documentaries.
that was a deep one.
There.
Banks, what you got on this one right here?
Shit, I gotta agree. It's the same. I'm always watching stuff about extra sports content, all the interviews, all the smoke, knuckleheads, all everything sports. I'm always involved in it, whether it be the playing or off the field. So it was already something I was gonna watch anyway, and it definitely did not disappoint.
T-Rail?
For me, when I first heard of this, I'd never heard of the brawl at all. Like
That boy young.
I think this happened in 2004. Your boy was probably in preschool or something like that. With crayons.
Yo, that's crazy.
And coloring in some coloring book.
Preschool, G.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Or kindergarten, whatever. But I was just shocked at the escalation of that whole event and just how it unfolded. And I knew you guys probably watched the game, or at least some of you might have watched the game when it actually happened. I'm just interested in your perspectives on that. Like after watching this documentary, like what's your perspective on that? But overall, I thought it was dope. I thought it was a dope production.
What about you, Gills?
I like what I watched so far. So I'm pretty much almost done. pretty much almost done.
You keep it in 100. You keep it in 100.
Yeah. What last word? Like, yeah, it's a certified real. I'm not gonna do that.
But let. No, you don't. I'm gonna go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, no, I was gonna say. Well, no, I'll let you guys go. Go ahead.
Now I wanted to dive into Terrell's question because I'm interested in that because like Gills and Reggie, y'all a little bit older than us, so y'all probably have more of a like you probably remember it a little bit more. What was your perspective? Definitely since like Gills, you're a little bit more of a basketball head. So like, what was your perspective watching it, and then how it unfolded like the next couple of weeks? What you can remember?
I mean, never seen anything like it. I couldn't believe it, like at first, but then again, when like the whole way it was painted, and back at that time, like those players were looked at as the goons, like as like Steven Jackson, like. Since Popovich days, since he was on the Spurs, he was looked at as, okay, he's a goon. Ron Artest, a goon. Jermaine O'Neal, hothead. That's what they were looked at. The only saving grace was, Reggie Miller was looked at as this sure first ballot Hall of Famer. He was looked at as that guy. So for this to happen out of nowhere, especially like going against the defending champs, at that time, you just come back, you turn on the TV, and then you see this going on crazy, and then you could not escape it. It was just going everywhere, and for some reason, I was thinking it was just gonna go, it was gonna pass by, like, oh, okay, they went crazy, and no, it's not gonna be. They're gonna get suspended for a little bit, but they brought the hammer down. David Stern was not playing, and it was one of the first times I realized that there was really not that much distance between the players and the audience as like in other sports. This was bringing it to the forefront. But yeah, I had a lot of thoughts when I first seen it. So,
what about you, Beasley?
So this came out in 2004, right? This happened in 2004, right? So I would have been 23. So at that time, get your Kevin Hart on. Go ahead.
Yeah, we was all thinking the same thing.
Because I had the same moment when Terrell said, this nigga wasn't even alive.
Pre-K, bro.
I was like, damn. I thought everybody saw this.
Yeah, that's okay.
Anyway, but like at that time, I wasn't as into basketball as I am now, and on top of that, I didn't appreciate the if you were a quote unquote dickhead, I wasn't fucking with you. You know what I'm saying? You had to be the good guy. Like Reggie Miller was my guy, not because he had my name, but he was my guy because he played the game right.
And he's not even a good guy.
And
he's not.
Right, but right. I know what you're talking about. But
I'm a Knicks fan. I know.
Right. But the way he does it, it's not like a
thank you. Thanks.
You know what I'm saying?
Is that necessary?
He's not a Charles Oakley. He's not a, you know what I'm saying, in your face like that. He's not that type of dude. Like he's gonna do his stuff real sneaky, and then he's gonna wet 9 points in 30 seconds in your face. That's what he's gonna do. It's
8
crazy.
seconds.
Whatever. I wouldn't remember that vividly because it didn't happen to us. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, like I didn't. So Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, and Jermaine O'Neal are not guys that I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I like them. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't rocking with them like that because they were like bad boys. So when the shit popped off, not to mention, I mean, WWE was like at its peak during them years, 99 to like 2000, whatever. So when I watched that game and that came on, I thought I was watching a wrestling match that like, you know, like they staged some shit. And like there was, I couldn't believe it. It was just like Gil said, like it's not, you don't really realize how close people are. Like dude was able to not only run into the stands, but then that same dude came out on the floor and squared up.
It's crazy that you say that. Like as far as like looking at these guys is not rooting for them, because when I was looking at it, when I was a little bit younger, but like when I was looking at it, I was like a big, you know, Ron Artest. I was rooting for him because you know, always you hear about stuff. Yeah, he was a little quirky, you know. I mean, with the, you know, everything that he was doing, especially at that time. But I was like somebody trying to promote their album. I remember that. I didn't remember that until I watched the documentary. I was like, oh yeah, this asshole was really trying to promote an album in the middle of the seasons. And I was like, no, but I was still rooting for him because I know that, you know, you hear stories about his past trauma and stuff like that, things that he went through, people like Lamar Odom, things that they went through. So I looked at Ben Wallace like, yo, why you had to go that hard? Like I was looking at Ben Wallace as the bad guy when I first seen it. I know, I'm just telling you my perspective when I
no, but that's interesting that you say that though, because back then mental health wasn't even like out there like that. So for you to even know that Ron Artest, because like to me, I'm just like, this nigga's an idiot.
Well, you gotta understand. I'm a Knicks fan.
I get that.
He went to St. John's. So when the draft came, he got drafted, and we missed him in the draft, and so that was a big deal for us. And so we still like that Ron Artest, like, oh, what could have been? But so we still kind of follow his career. So, but that's part of what plays into it.
Because I'm like, yo, back then you didn't even know. Like I said, I just thought the dude was an idiot. But like, you know, now of course going back and knowing what dude was really going through, even like a dude like Kobe, I couldn't stand Kobe until probably the last ring he got, because he was a dick. Like he was a dickhead. But I'm not, but now I appreciate it. Even Jordan. I wasn't a Jordan fan till like probably after he retired the second time.
Yeah. So moving on, because you know, I feel like y'all talked about something, like y'all touched a little bit on y'all perspective of it and what y'all remember seeing on TV when it actually happened. And they talked a lot about that in the actual documentary. And I remember being on Ron Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, and Jack Saad only because they were black men, right? And the way they was treating them initially just felt like this is what they do to black men in America, right? Like no matter what, they're wrong, no matter how they saw it, right? And that's before I knew, you know, what actually happened, right? Because the way they was cutting it up was they was cutting like Ron Artest was just in the stands. Like they didn't necessarily show what happened before he was in the stands. They would show Ben Wallace, the foul, Ben Wallace, and then boom, Ron Artest in the stands, right? So I want to talk about representation in media because found footage created this, and I enjoyed that we sat down and we talked with the three of them, and then they had footage to back up what they were saying. Like for example, I think it was Jack. He said that Tinsley gave Ron Artest the go-ahead to get his foul, and that initially what kind of sparked everything to go forward. And they actually have footage of Tinsley saying like, "Yo, go get your foul."
You can hear it,
right? And that's information that, you know, plays a part in the story, especially as us as filmmakers and creators that play, because that's the catalyst. That's the turn. That's like what got it popping, right? So knowing that information, like let's talk about how this whole production came together and what's your thought process on that, as all that found information that was always there for the last 20 years, 15 years or whatever, but now we're seeing it on the screen.
It just goes to show, you know, when certain people are in power and they control the media, they're going to do everything that they can to portray whatever image there is on screen. Like one thing that I caught immediately about the media was as soon as that incident happened, every media outlet, all these thugs, these disgraceful human beings, these pigs, this hip hop incident. I'm like, what? I'm like, all right, that was OD. Basically, they wanted to say niggas. But they knew they couldn't say nigga, so they used filler words in place of niggas. So I was like,
it didn't even wait to the outlets. Like during the broadcast, like like they was already on that type of wild. Like they was like look at them, look at how they behave. Like they was like immediately they were ready to jump into that.
There was a lot of thems and theys that was like in asterisk black people.
Which is kind of crazy in a way because they always do this, but the league's not moving forward without black athletes. Right, like it's no way to leave it. You know, so it's crazy that that's allowed. And I feel like not when I saw it, but as years gone, because they have done, you know, projects on it, they talked about it. I always took it as it was just a money move for Stern, right? Like it was just a money move. Like we have to make an example out of them so we can keep the fans happy because the fans is what's putting the money in, TV deals, et cetera, et cetera. And then now we're starting to see it a little bit different now, like fans spitting on people, on players and stuff like that. And they're starting to really cut down on it. But yeah, I just always thought it was a money move. Like he was doing that strictly to save face and keep money coming into the league.
Also, to piggyback off what you're saying, you got to remember the league is like this now because I mean, I can't help but think that if social media wasn't as prevalent as it is, and you can, like a fan can catch something as like the dude, Suns in 4, that was off a fan's phone. Like stuff like that is caught so much and it's like, it's blatantly thrown up in the league's face. So you can only imagine, like, it makes you wonder, what if we didn't have social media now with it happening? And then what if we had social media back then? We probably figure out that same night, oh no, a fan threw a cup down and it hit Ron in the face. So you gotta,
because that idiot would have went on social media and posted about it.
Yeah,
exactly. That's a great point. This probably would have passed a lot sooner.
He was low key a bitch. He was low key a bitch.
And I like that. And I like that they interviewed him. Like they interviewed him during the time and they had replayed that interview because I've never seen that conversation that he had. I've never seen that conversation. So, and the conversation was old, like it's not new. And he was like proud of what he did. So I 100% believe that if they had social media, he would have owned up to that on social media.
100%.
Because he was owning
it's
up.
Like,
yeah.
Right. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh yeah, because just like you were saying, like he was proud to say he did it then. So if he had a platform to hide behind, man, come on, he would have been all over.
And we would have seen all of the people who supported it because they would have liked it, commented like you did the right thing.
Like, you know how many followers he would have got?
Yeah, and that's what I like. That's one thing that I like about social media.
I can see that.
Is that like you can see who supports that nonsense when they do something racist and then it got 20,000 likes on it. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think, and I agree, like what you were saying, Gills, it would have passed way further because I could get my information from Beasley that was at the game and he caught a piece of it on his phone that they didn't show on Sports Center, or Stephen A didn't talk about it or whatever, or Stephen A and them could have got that information from your phone because you could have sent it to them, via DM, and they would have had that knowledge or that information.
Yo, what was really grimy was the fact that on that interview, he was like, oh, it's such a relief that he didn't hit me. I'm like, really, though? Yo, like, are you serious?
Bitch.
Like
He was
it's like, if I was a dude that would have caught the fade and I knew I wasn't that I wasn't the one who threw it and the guy who actually threw it didn't own up to the shit, he's sitting there laughing, like I would have been mad as hell. Like that
I'm fading him now. Like I'm fading you.
You have to. But I personally love documentaries where they use heavy found footage and then use that found footage to back up whatever it is they're saying, right? So like my favorite type of documentaries is always the documentaries where they're like presenting a case, right? So Jermaine O'Neal has this point that he's trying to prove to the audience, right? Like I want everybody to know the actual truth because he went up the court system and he was told like, yo, you did the right thing. But then when he comes back down to work, he's getting treated like he didn't do the right thing, right? And people don't know that. People don't know. We don't have that footage of when he was in the court system, right? They never showed that, he was right in what he did or whatever the case may be. So I felt like he used this as like, as the audience, we are the judge, the jury or whatever. And now here's his side of the story. So all of these years we've heard, the narrative of what they wanted to show and we made our decision. And then now we're finally able to get his side of the story. Now we can make a more informed decision of what actually happened on that night.
And on top of the found footage, you had them interview people on every level, the players, the referee, that cornball ass nigga that was on the court trying to square up with a 6'7"
he sucker
Artest. Like
they was gonna ban anyway. That's what I thought was crazy. They was planning to ban him anyway because he was acting wild. So he had behavior of doing this type of stuff anyway, and they was gonna let it ban. So it's I felt like it was everybody, right? And I think it was more of the fans in the NBA than having Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, and Jack, all of them together. You know what I'm saying?
Also, I didn't remember, like, I knew the Pacers was good at that time. Like, I knew they was good. Yeah, I didn't know they was the best team in the league. I was like, damn.
I remember that they were
really good.
I remember they were really good, but I was like, best team in the league. That's a significant difference. And then
what did Steven Jackson say? We was busting their ass.
Yeah. Yo, side note, I like how raw Steven Jackson has always been, son. Yes. And I think from day one, he's always been raw. And I always like that about Steven Jackson, how he's so raw, clean cut, like straight to the point. Like he doesn't have that game. And I actually like that I like Ron when he became open about his struggles and his issues and stuff like that. That's when I started to like Ron Artest. But I never was really a big fan of Jermaine O'Neal. But I also feel like I started to really, really watch basketball on the back end of this. Right. So like I always knew Jermaine O'Neal was elite or he was becoming that. And then, this kind of hindered that. But I never was like a fan like, yo, it's Jermaine O'Neal type of.
Nah, I fuck with Jermaine O'Neal because he was like one of the first, like back then power forwards was like the niggas was like right under centers. Like it wasn't no stretch. Like he was really, and like he was one of the first power forwards you seen. Oh, I can't back you down. All right, come out here and drag you out 15 feet and kill you. Like spin off you, up and unders, all that. So he was definitely, I was definitely a big fan. I knew he had like I didn't know he like Reggie. I didn't know he was like that dude. Like I ain't know like, oh, this man will like knock your teeth out. Like if it's necessary. I mean, to think about it, he knocked Buddy out. Like Buddy was out cold on the stretcher, and he slipped. Imagine if he don't slip and follow through. Like,
I just remember that. I remember that sliding punch we was talking about it the next day. Like yo, you see Jermaine O'Neal? Soup. Just pretty much when you reenacting the whole thing. That whole team was made up of play. Like, all right, you have well, I wasn't gonna say goons. I was gonna say like, you know, you have your average player, your below average player, and then you have, you know, your Hall of Famers, or, you know, people that are just like, this is the people that are just underneath that Hall of Fame level. They were all super nice. But it doesn't get talked about because they're not really, except for Reggie. Like there wasn't really a whole bunch of.
I know the word.
Even Jamal Tinsley is a beast.
I know the word.
What's the word?
It's a term used in football. It's dogs.
Dogs. Yeah, dogs.
Big facts.
Yeah.
Them straight dogs. All of them.
Yeah,
Even Reggie Miller. Even Reggie Miller. They're all dogs.
Y'all remember when Reggie choked Kobe? I felt some type of way that day.
All dogs. Reggie had enough.
Yeah.
He said, man, y'all gonna stop treating me like the good guy all the time.
So my next question is, because I felt like there was some emotional parts in the documentary, and I don't know if necessarily that's how they set it up, or that's just how the pieces fell when they was putting it together. But one of the more emotional parts was seeing how they mentioned, it was two for me. The first one was they mentioned how like they were saying like, where's the security? Right? There was no security, no cops, no nothing, right? And then the next one was when the cop ran up on Reggie Miller with the taser and was about to tase Reggie Miller.
The mace.
Yeah.
And then Jack was like, how you from Indiana? You live in Indiana and don't know who Reggie Miller is.
Exactly.
And I felt, and it instantly took me to like, it was one of these moments, and he was just another black man in one of those moments.
Dude was actually gonna mace Ron
Yeah.
Artest, and Reggie got in between them. But the dude was like, I didn't know who Reggie was because he was in the suit, bro. It's Reggie Miller. It's Reggie Miller. At the time, this is the greatest. This is the greatest shooter of all time. At the time,
it don't even matter. It don't even matter like if he was in a suit or not, because you can look at it from now to all the way to a couple years ago when the Toronto Raptors won that championship. Masai Ujiri, the president of the Toronto Raptors, the one who create the whole architect behind bringing Kawhi Leonard there, bringing Kyle Lowry, trading DeMar DeRozan, whatever. He's the guy that set everything up to win this championship. Like he rolled the dice. So when the championship comes and then he's trying to get on the floor, the officer, you guys heard about that, right? And that turned into a whole thing, like where the officer tried to say, like he damaged me. The wife said, oh, like now, like because he pushed him, like he can't perform his husbandly duties, like he can't get his meat up anymore. Like I'm like, yo,
I think that's a little bit different though.
Dead ass. She said that.
No, I agree. I know he said that. I know he said that. What I'm saying is,
I know he said all that.
What I'm saying is, I think
OD for no reason.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's a little bit different though, because the management team is not plastered all over everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like as a player, the best player on the team, arguably
the best
maybe
player in the history.
No, my point is this. They're gonna find an
you're an Indiana cop.
They're gonna find an excuse to say to do what they did. It's not like if it doesn't matter what happened, he's gonna find some dumbass excuse.
I agree.
Sure.
It's like he ran on the court, was like, okay, who's the first black person I see? Oh, him. Hey,
let's not forget that Reggie, he said he was in a suit. He ain't recognized. The nigga is 6'6".
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Talking about
6'7".
Like
6'7". What are you talking about?
He's in a suit.
What random 6'7" dude's gonna be in a suit on the court?
I ain't know. Trying to help. Like, come on, son. That was so like, it was like one of those things that just hit me like.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Like, it don't matter what structure or where you at, what status you are in this country. When shit get tough, when it gets real, it's like you're automatically just another black man in America.
That's
like
why I said it was symbolic.
He has done so much for the state of Indiana, sports wise, on the field, on the court, off the court, that you don't know Reggie Miller when you see him. He's been there longer than 20 years.
Just took them to the finals.
he's NBA Reggie Pacer and college. Reggie Miller. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's been there for years.
Not to mention, he carries himself like a gentleman off the court. Like, for all the BS, like, you don't see him in and out the news or whatever. This is years and years of stuff like why would you? It don't make no sense. This dude is like a legend in that state. So
it made me so mad.
So here's what
it made me so, because we know the type. Usually, like, when you see these cops, like, you have an idea of what a cop is, right? Like, probably homegrown. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get an idea of what it is, sports fan, whatever the case may be. I guarantee this particular cop after work went to the bar, had some drinks, and watched the Pacer game. Like, you can guarantee more than likely that has happened with him. And you telling me in these moments where it's heated and it's hot, and you're trained to do these different things, that you couldn't recognize that that's Reggie Miller? Like, it's just insane. And it just, like, tallies, get your mind thinking about other things with police brutality and different stuff like that. Like, regular people, we have no chance. Reggie Miller didn't have a chance. You know what I'm saying? It's just insane.
In the state of Indiana, it should be people like Larry Bird, Bob Knight, Reggie Miller should be in that class, to where, like, you nigga, red carpet everywhere I go. So, like,
that's just crazy, son.
Period.
That's just crazy.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up too, though, is that it's crazy because the cop is running onto the court with the mace, and the first person he goes at is one of the players.
Yeah. Who they're there to protect.
Who had already calmed down at that point.
Yeah, it's insane.
Who was already controlled.
But even if you want to take the control part out of there, but, like, the player, really? Yeah. Like, so I don't get that. I don't know. It's like you said, X, you was like, when you saw it and you heard that, the way it come from their voice, it takes you back to a state of, like, damn, like,
it just
I never even been like during Jim Crow or civil rights movement, but, like, I felt that, like God damn, like, that was.
He was definitely gonna go back to the he's gonna go back to the station and brag that I
Artest.
Exactly, absolutely, 100%. And I got Reggie Miller's ass too. So.
Thanks. Question though, how do y'all feel about? Okay, so y'all remember when the guy who was running the case? I can't remember his name. If one of y'all can find that, the guy who was running the case. You remember he said when they first started introducing him into the film, he spoke to everybody, was basically trying to tell him what to do. And they're like, oh, you need to do this, you need to prosecute the players. And I found it refreshing for myself that he was like, no, everybody that has something to do with it is gonna pay the price for it.
Yep.
Everybody. And, like, I found that, because you don't see that. You don't see shit like that. So I found it dope that he took the time out to be like, no, we gonna go through. And you can hear him say there's murders going on. He has other shit to worry about. And then, not to mention, this case had more evidence than any murder case he's ever dealt with. So all the thousands of videos and the paperwork for him to do that due diligence and actually get down to the bottom of it, that was pretty dope. I felt like that made most of the difference in the case as well.
And that should be the standard.
Facts. Definitely be the standard. It should definitely be the standard.
But it's not. It's definitely not. But
also, I agree. I think I also agree with that. But I also think he was on a large platform, and I think being on that platform, that's why I kind of was like, yeah, I appreciate that aspect of it, because that was a large platform, and he could have just simply, ran with the ties and be like, all right, this is what it is. This is what it is. I mean, either way, they still got them games, right? But they didn't have to. But I mean, but what's the name did get a felony. I remember him saying that.
Jermaine O'Neal.
Jermaine O'Neal did get a felony. Yes. So.
And this was for laying homeboy out on the stretcher. Nothing, like, there was a guy he actually threw on a table. A guy that, before he runs the sliding punch, there's a guy that actually grabs Jermaine by the neck. He grabs him, throws him on the broadcaster's table, and he looks, and another Pacers player was laying on the ground. And that's why he ran and knocked dude out the way he did.
What are you thinking trying to jump on Jermaine O'Neal's neck, though? Like, what are you thinking, bro? Like, what was I want to know, what was the thought process behind it? Like, what did you think you was going to do? Choke him out? You was gonna choke him out, and then that was gonna be it. You gonna run around and say I choked out Jermaine O'Neal?
I was trying to decipher like the amount of passion that some of these fans have. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know if it was that or they just felt that they could get away with it.
That's
like,
what it was.
Fuck it. That's what fuck it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna kick him because at the end of the day, he's getting got, not me. So I'm gonna just do whatever the fuck I want.
Right. I think also I think it's that 100%. I also think it's like it's so many of us, they can't get us all type feel.
Yeah, that's why they was pouring beer on them and doing all that shit while they was leaving the state.
It was crazy. They caught the dude with the chair. They had a good ass picture of him. I'm talking about his shit. His shit was crisp. I was like, every other video was kind of like, it was kind of fuzzy. It was kind of, his shit was so crispy. I was like, damn, did you pose for this shit?
They had good lighting over there.
I think the director Floyd Russ is actually pretty good because he also did the that Zion documentary about the wrestler with no legs. Have y'all seen that?
Oh
yeah. So he's actually dope with telling that story, with telling those stories from the individual's perspective. Now I do remember not in it but in the interviews, Jermaine O'Neal say that even this didn't necessarily tell it exactly how you wanted it to be told, but I do think that this did give it a lot of justice compared to what we knew prior to this. So what are y'all thoughts on that? Do y'all think this did justice? Like you had a whole new perspective on what actually happened that day?
I mean, just look at what you said earlier, because you were speaking all facts. The only thing they would show Ron Fallon, and then it would skip straight to Ron going in the crowd. Even watching it then, I was like, he just randomly ran into the crowd, like it, because it didn't make sense at the time. I'm a little bit younger than 24 at the time, actually about 13 more like it. But I'm like,
I was 23, nigga, trying to be funny.
You said 24.
I didn't say 24. It's 23.
So, check the tape. But anyway, we there, and I'm just like, he just ran and just beat the crowd up for no reason. So even then, like, it leaves a lot of things unanswered. So you see how much more it explains, and over again, you hear Ron, Stack, and Jermaine saying, like, all of the footage. If you would have just showed all of the footage, we probably wouldn't have even had this problem. Neither one of them felt like they shouldn't have been suspended, but they felt like what they got was too harsh. And then not to mention the way they're being painted in the media.
Well, we already know that, like, the other side, those people we don't live by the same rules, right? Like we take, like I was with Jack when he was saying, like, nah, I was just throwing haymakers for my brother. Like, to me, that was valid. Like, all right, that's valid. If I'm the judge and I'm sitting there, like, yeah, that's valid, But they don't have that same perspective because, for obvious reasons.
I'll be honest with you. To answer your question, like what you were saying earlier, I think as well done as this, and obviously I haven't finished yet, but as well done as this has been done, I don't think there's enough. An hour and change is enough to dissect everything in there. There's a lot more to this.
Oh yeah.
Than they can be jam packed in an hour. As good as as well as it's done, I think we can dive more into exactly the thought process, not just behind Jermaine O'Neal's upbringing, behind Meta World Peace, behind the ramifications, the ripple effect that it had on the league going forward. Like there's a lot more to the story to tell than what was said, even though it was very well done. But yeah, I thought there was some more left on the table.
Yeah, I could see it. I was gonna say I could see why you say it kind of looks like a money grab X, because for them to just put together that clip of him fouling and then Ron running up to the crowds and whooping somebody's ass and then just rolling with that for all these years, it kind of looks a little suspect now, knowing that there's thousands and thousands of however many clips and pieces of footage that they had. And just now everything is unfolding. And then on top of that, you got the little, the side interviews that they had with different platforms. So now we got information coming from that angle. And, Meta World Peace was kind of talking about how he was having mental health issues. And the reason why he laid down on that table was because he was taking a breather because that's what they told him to do in the therapy sessions. And Ben saw it, he saw it as like, oh, this dude's being an asshole, he's being a dick. Like he's being disrespectful.
Anybody would though. Like if you like you just fouled the shit out of me. I'm to the point where I want to fight. And you know like he said, he was like, I knew J.O. wasn't gonna let him get to me. I knew nobody gonna let nothing happen. And like him, of course, if your own teammates ain't aware of your true mental health issues, I know damn well Ben Wallace ain't. So I'm looking from over here and you lay down? No. I'm heated.
it was a wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. And then also, I think a family member of Ben Wallace passed.
His brother.
So his brother, yeah. So it was a lot of misunderstandings on both ends. So
but Ben Wallace at this time at all times is looked at this super duper tough guy, like the quintessential like no nonsense, quiet, stoic. Nigga work out before the game, after the game. I wouldn't be surprised if he worked out during halftime. Like this nigga, like completely just like this, I swear, like this nigga, like all he does is lift weights, play basketball, and that's it. So that's what he looks like. And
he was the enforcer.
He was the enforcer. That was the
basketball. That's what I do.
I wasn't mad at Ben Wallace for the most part, right? Because I felt like what happened on the court is what happens on the court. Like we see scuffles like that all the time, especially in that era. Like that wasn't something that was uncommon. And I solely point the blame on fans. Like the fans was just terrible, and he did a terrible job of controlling those fans. And that's where I'm always going to point the blame. And I kind of pointed the blame then too.
I mean, you heard J.O. and Reggie both speak to it. Jermaine O'Neal was like, the fans not knowing. He was like, I'm good friends with these dudes. He was like we homeboys. Him and Rasheed Wallace was on the Portland Trailblazers together, and then him and Rip Hamilton grew up playing AAU together. He like, man, he was like, it's just, he was like, you get into it with your boys. He was a regular pickup game. You get into it with your boys, like it happens. And then Reggie was speaking to it like, he like this situation getting amplified to the way it did. He was like, you looking around. Now the cop saying it was only 3 of us, but I'm like, y'all ain't got no security. Like what was 3 cops? I guess you're not expecting, they're just not expecting something like that to happen. They're expecting 1 or 2 disturbances. I got to escort this fan out. But
my whole thing is, why is that in basketball, a scuffle is looked at as a disgrace to the league, but the shit happens in hockey all the time, but they don't say shit. Nobody bats an eye.
That's the thing, though. It wasn't the scuffle. It wasn't the scuffle. It was the fighting in the fans. That's what it was. That's really what it was. And I felt like the league just took that opportunity. Like they had some issues with other things that was going on with, black players in the league that they just didn't have found a floor to stand on to make those moves. And this just was an opportunity for them to do that. And to do that, I felt like, and that's why I said I felt like it was a money grab. For them to do that, they had to put the blame on those 3 dudes. It just so happened that they were black. Right. And I think that's when they started changing how you dress, doing this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
I remember that. It
was like a ripple effect of all of these things that they wanted to do, which obviously was things they wanted to do originally anyways. They just didn't have anything to stand on. So since we got all of this nonsense going on, right, that we got to solve, let's slide all of this other stuff under that same thing. I mean, that's what our country do, right? Like pass a bill to save people, but we're also giving, the billionaires a tax break. You know what I'm saying? That's just what we do, business or whatever the case may be. So I think that's what it mainly was at the end of the day. And I think that's what Stern did. And I also think it's ridiculous that it's one person to make a decision on what's going on. Like that, I hate that about the NFL I hate that in sports in general, that they do that. But that's why I thought it was just a money grab.
The money grab point is correct, because I think it's all to monetize the sport. So every year, like the sport, or every certain number of years, their TV, they get a TV check pretty much that pretty much stimulates how big the salary cap is. You see how these sports players, like these NBA players, are getting bigger contracts now than when Jordan was in here. That's because that it's become a bigger game, like globally on TV. So there's more viewer ratings. So if you can have the product look a certain way towards the audience that you want, but have everybody dressing up in a suit, you know what I mean? Like that's what's gonna happen. And so now that they monetize that, now you can see accelerated to the point where now we literally have ads on the jerseys now, because everything they do is going to make sure they want
make
people
money,
to look. So when they point at, you know, Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, and Meta World Peace, so like, look at these thugs, we don't want them out of here. That's all it is. It's a great point. And Terrell, to what you were saying previously, like, I don't know, you have to ask a hockey person, a hockey head for that, because that I've never understood. And I like hockey. You watch hockey? Yeah. What's that about?
They just like, I mean, it's never been an issue. Like, you never hear about even the dudes who are like dirty. It's almost like the way they talk about them is like celebrated. It's kind of like, he's such a dirty player. But you think about like Vontaze Burfict. He's like trash. Like they treat him like it. But in hockey, Vontaze Burfict, if he was a little lighter complected, would be.
No, he could be black.
He still be black.
I don't think they would let it fly.
I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit different. I think every sport has its level of what they allow outside of the game in the sport. That even when it's because in football you have things that are done that's not a part of the game, that shouldn't be done, that are still done and allowed in the game. And they're slowly starting to take that out of the game, right? Like with leading with your helmet and stuff like that. That they're slowly taking it out of the game. It's just that every sport has something that they do in a culture. That, you know, and just hockey has stayed doing that because they have a following that loves it. On top of, they don't have a mixed following also. So as much as the other sports do. So I feel like when you have a bigger fan base of a mixed following, certain things flow with me, might not flow with Terrell, and we complain about those things. So things are being done to make it where everybody enjoys it. But if you have a game where only one type of fan base loves it and they love the fighting, then there's no need to take it away. Right. So I think that's what it is. That's why, and hockey's obviously not the most popular sport that we have in this country.
But that's why it's not really growing like that, to be honest with you. Like,
but that's the thing. They're comfortable at that. Like I think they do what they do with it, and they're comfortable with that, and they enjoy whatever it is that they have going on.
Now they're about to put ads on their jerseys now.
Yeah.
It's
always to make money.
Just got to prove to them.
Yeah.
And also speaking back to the point of like saying like it was more so focused it going in the crowd. Even Jermaine O'Neal said, he was like, at the end of his All the Smoke interview, he was like, I wish if they were like, what if you could relive one of your games, what would it be? And he was like, the Malice. And they was like, why? And he was like, because he was like, I would have rathered it turned into us fighting them, like us actually fighting Ben and the Pistons, than us fighting the fans. He was like, because if we fight each other, he's like, nobody cares. He was like, that's 4 or 5 game suspension.
Yeah.
He was like, ain't nothing happening. He was like, you're gonna be right back there next week playing, doing what you're doing. He was like, and he was like, no matter how bad it gets, he was like, but as soon as it's a fan involved, now things are different.
Yeah, because you got to protect what brings the money in. Like when you fight each other, you only hurt in your pockets. But when you fight in the fans, you hurt everybody's pockets now. But they still need to, like, I mean, that's just the favoritism, the way this country is set up, the racism, whatever. Because if those was Steve Kerr jumping in the fans or Larry Bird jumping in the fans, we obviously know that would have been
slap on the wrist.
Yeah, a completely different outcome, into it. So
yes.
But I do wonder how that story would have been told.
Saying
you can't attack thug behavior. Like, they're not gonna say we got to change these thug
Gordon
behaviors,
Hayward,
these thug clothing.
Gordon Hayward just knocked the fucking fan out. Yeah, that's not going. Nah.
All right. So my last question, I wanted to get. We talked a lot about the politics of this, which I felt like that's really all you could talk about with found footage and what's going on. So I would say, do you like what else? Like, I know Gil's touched on it a little bit, like what he thought was missing. I personally think for the conversation about what happened in the Palace, I thought it was perfect. I didn't think it was missing anything. I think everything else are, different stories that could be told, like understanding Meta World Peace and why he did what he did. I feel like that's a completely different story along with the rest of them. So what do you think you want to go forward next with it? Like, what story you want to learn about next or you want to watch next?
And as far as this,
as far as that's connected to this situation, right? So, like, what's the next step that you would want to see? Like, we understand what happened and how they did them wrong, but now, because, like, for example, for me, we saw Metal Workers bounce back, get a ring. We saw Jack bounce back, get a ring. So I want to know the story of O'Neal's situation because he felt like he was by himself in certain aspects. So I want to know, like, why did he feel like that? Let's dive into that story and see, because he still had a pretty lengthy career after that, but he wasn't able to touch, a ring and stuff like that. So I want to know that story. That's kind of like
mine was the same thing. I was going. That's why I started shaking my head as soon as you start talking about them bouncing back, getting their rings. Because I did feel like he kind of got blackballed. Like you remember in the again, back to referencing his other interview, he made the All-Star team that year still. Like, he came back and still made the All-Star game as a starter. So that only tells you the work he was putting in when he got back. Like, he came back and immediately got to putting foots to asses. But he shows up to All-Star weekend, there's no pictures of him anywhere. He's like, everywhere I'm walking, he was like, you see all the rest of the All-Stars. He was like, you can't find me nowhere. He's like, me and my wife looking. He was like, in the programs, there's no pictures of me. He was like, it was like they wrote me out. And then you go to, over the next 2 years, their team changes dramatically. You have Ron who leaves because he felt it was best for him to leave. So the team can move on, he can move on. And then you got Reggie retiring and everything that just went in there, and then he's just kind of left. So that I definitely would have wanted to see how that more in detail of what transpired with that.
I think I would have wanted to. Well, I don't think we're ever going to see what I wanted to see, because one of the things is the person who has probably the most that I want to hear from has already passed, David Stern. So, like, I wanted to hear more about as far as how he implemented these new rules, how he implemented the punishment, what he told, the NBA offices, how to handle the situation, what was the immediate reaction. You can probably still get, interviews from, this person that was in the office, or this person who was deputy. I think Adam Silver might have been his deputy at that point in time. So maybe, but I don't think he's going to say anything. NBA is not trying to highlight Malice at the Palace at all. They're trying to erase it out of the history books, to be honest with you. So I don't think you're going to see anything in regards to the NBA in conjunction, supporting, any documentary like this from Malice at the Palace.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gills and X and Banks. But just to add on to what Gills was saying, I do want to kind of see more detail on the precautions that they took after all that happened. Like, did they start bringing in more of a police presence at the games? Were they more on top of the referees? Because a lot of them, Steven Jackson even said in an interview that the referees weren't doing their job correctly. So I want to know if there was, like, maybe training protocols, or maybe they added more refs, or something that
I can answer one of them questions.
That they had a sit down meeting. It was like, yo, this can't happen again. What are we doing moving forward?
We went to a Grizzlies and Golden State game, and when I tell you, it's like 4 cops per tunnel, and then it's cops that are all around the arena, like just waiting, like at work. And you had never seen, I've been to NBA games before it, and then directly after, it was the same season, like later on in the season, and there was cops everywhere. So yeah, that was one of the things that they definitely spruced up.
I think the part of that is the increased awareness of domestic terrorism and terrorism in general. Yeah. I think now people, like, security is like a big deal at big events. Like as far as sporting events, and because nobody wants to for the next thing to happen at some type of sporting event where kids and women and children are involved. So I don't know, but yeah, I think that's that was recent that you went to that.
No, that was back. I'm saying that same season I went to a
Grizzlies, for real?
And
a
Grizzlies and Golden State game, and that shit was cops everywhere. So that was a big up. That's back when Memphis was still playing in the pyramid. So yeah.
What, what, was, your, 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 what, was,
I mean, I think just more, I guess, more the logistics, because I think you guys pretty much hit everything that I would want to add, but more the logistics of like what Terrell was saying as far as the arena, like, you know, what, you know, because there was no police presence, there was no security presence, like, you know.
Are you saying what they had that night?
Yeah, what was going on in the
yeah.
arena, like, because like, I mean, to me, you know, I couldn't imagine being a player on the court, not knowing, like, you know, okay, all right, when is it? This is not going to end until whenever, because there's nobody there to stop it. So I don't know. I want to know what the hot dog guy was thinking, the popcorn people, the beer.
He
guy.
must have
Like,
made a rip.
The
for
beer
real,
dude probably sold out.
And I'm being, it sounds funny, but I'm being real. Like, when I know the guy was walking down the aisle, hot dog, got your hot dog. And like, what did he do with his hot dogs? He probably had to pay for that if he threw them on the ground. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't know. So,
Shit, all the shit they was throwing, they probably robbed his ass and was throwing the shit.
If I get hit with a hot dog in the face, somebody got died. Not gonna throw the glizzy in my face, and like, nah, it's not happening. Somebody's gonna get snuffed. Straight up. A wild wet hot dog just come out. Nah, bro.
A wild wet hot dog. So
I kind of I agree, but I think it would be a waste of time to talk to David Stern about it, because I feel like he wouldn't tell the truth anyway, right? Like, he's gonna put on a show to make sure that the NBA looks at its best, right? So if he actually did go in there and say, like, yo, we about to hang them out to dry because we about to do this, that, and the third, like, he's not gonna come on the show and be like, yo, this is what we did to them, right? Like, because then he'll just be admitting guilt to how and proving to how they really treated them. You know what I'm
somebody
saying?
in the room might have overheard, like, hey, this is what, or so I got an email or something.
Anybody in the room that where he said that was on his side.
Yeah, they on board.
After 17 years, something would have came out. Like old girl who said something about because they was putting a black girl in her position. Like a day or two later, they had leaked the conversation that she had already out. I just feel like at this point, something would have leaked. And he's, you know, he's not here with us anymore. Yeah. There would be no reason to keep it in. You know what I'm saying? Like, what he's done and who he is.
And they're not going to ruin his legacy, all that shit. Because if that was the case, if he would have got on the docket and said something, they would have apologized to Jermaine O'Neal. After I've been exonerated, there's no way you gonna bring me back and then still treat me like shit. So yeah, definitely.
I'm saying there's always a straggler that's willing to release some information or have some, like, even
not when it's $1 billion business.
I get you. The NBA runs a tight ship, but even them, they have the Tim Donaghy's, the referee, the rogue referee that came out of nowhere. Which we really one referee out of every referee that you ever had is the only one that did this shit. Like honestly, like, there's always somebody that's gonna slip up or trip up. You know, there's always something. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to dig a little more, but I
think we could have dig. I just think it would have been a waste of time because it wouldn't have. And on top of, we've already seen prior projects that they have done about this from their perspective, right?
Even if they did everything correct, even if they did everything by the book, I still want to see.
Yeah. I just think I just personally think, like, if they didn't do it correctly, like if they didn't do it by the book, we would still not know, and they still wouldn't, like, give us that information because they're trying to keep, you know, the NBA in this beautiful, perfect light.
And then on top of that, just the other thing, like, I guess the side story is just how it accelerated Reggie Miller's retirement. Because I know after that he was like, I'm fucking done. I'm out of here. But yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and, you know, get this done, and let's do what we usually do. So what's your thoughts? What do y'all give it?
This was definitely this was certified. It's up there.
Gills?
I'm not rating it yet. I don't
you got 10 minutes. You gotta say something, bro.
Now, from the sound of it, he got a little bit more than 10 minutes.
I got a little more than 10 minutes. So
This is what we work with. Go ahead.
I'll come back around.
What you got?
What's the one underneath it? Certified?
People's Choice.
People's Choice.
People's Choice and a half. Maybe.
I don't know because my only thing is I want to give it a certified. I just feel like it should have been a little longer. Fuck it, I'm gonna give it a certified. I think it served its purpose because I didn't get to mention it earlier, but I didn't really learn too much more new. The information that I did learn definitely made me look at it a little bit different. But it wasn't like the stuff that I found out was like, oh snap, that's crazy. I can't believe that happened.
That's a weak ass certified. Let me tell you that.
The 10 years was that was a damn. The day it stood that he was fighting that case for 10 years. That was surprising.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
I don't know. There was a lot of shit that I didn't necessarily know, and I don't know if it's because I didn't remember, or if they just never give that information.
He's saying like a wow moment, like a damn, like
it wasn't.
Yeah,
like I said,
that's what I'm saying.
I wasn't saying like it wasn't new stuff. I was just saying I wasn't surprised by anything. I guess is what more I'm saying. Like that I guess the only thing I would say actually is the whole Ron Artest mental health, because I really wasn't following that back then.
I feel like I always knew Ron had some mental health issues. So. I didn't know how the capacity of it, but I definitely knew.
He started talking about that shit when he was playing for the Rockets. And then when he went on to play with the Lakers, so I kind of had I didn't know it was like that bad. Like this man, like Steven and him had the same therapist, and Steven would be like, man, this man was fucking up daily. Like it was, this man would go out all night, party, wouldn't show up to practice late in Air Force. He said one time this nigga came in Air Force Ones, church socks, and his uniform and bust everybody ass. And was drunk, hung over. I was like, what the fuck? So
that's some Rodman shit right there.
What do you rate? Thanks.
I said certified. I went first.
Here.
Terrell.
I'm gonna give it a certified. Overall, if you look at the production, it was done very well. And by production, I mean, obviously cinematography, all that good stuff. And then just the people that they interviewed across the board, that gave a whole new perspective. And it being the first time I'm being like introduced to this whole brawl situation and watching it from this standpoint, I thought it was very well done. And just this documentary alone made me kind of venture out and do more research and then look more into, the players that were highlighted and look at some of their highlights and see why, Reggie Miller was that dude, or why the Pacers was whooping everybody's ass in the league. I would have never thought that they were doing that. So it's good info.
I agree. I gave it a certified also, and my main reason was the interviews. Like they picked the perfect people to interview. They picked the perfect questions. Like no matter how old dude that got punched, no matter what he said, he was the villain. Like he looked like the villain. And I think that was due to like great questions that they asked. I thought they got beautiful found footage. The way they captured your emotions when they were showing what happened to Reggie Miller with the mace, what happened when the fans was coming down out of the stands. I just thought it was beautifully done. So that's why I gave it.
That's great. So no matter what I do, it's got to be certified. Otherwise, I'm the asshole again. Right? That's what we do.
You like that role?
No.
What happened?
You like that role though?
Keep it 100. You didn't finish it, right? Keep it 100. Don't. Keep it 100 right now.
Certified, guys. Yeah. All right, I got you. Next.
I appreciate y'all. You know what I'm saying? Joining us, watching us, getting all that information out. That was a lot, based in politics and all that nonsense. Definitely go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's a dope documentary. And we're going to go ahead and get up out of it.
Certified real.
Hey, I'm a little excited.
You heard it here first. Certified real. Everybody.
You are now listening to Real Talk Podcast.
This is certified.